Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. So in this box is my emotions. No, in here is baby leaf insects that one of my subscribers, Beth, has kindly sent to me, and I just wanted to unbox them here on my channel. But before that, I did want to explain why I've got them and how I came to have them before I actually show them to you guys. So I'm going to put the box down just for a second and talk to you guys about my leaf insect eggs, because that is a really frequently asked question on my channel. A lot of you don't see some of the update videos and you do still ask me if they've hatched yet, and the short answer to that is no. So if you remember the video, about 6 months ago I ordered some leaf insect eggs and I wanted to kind of take you guys along the journey of them hatching. I did buy these from a guy that I've ordered from before. I got my first ever leaf insect from him, so I did trust him and I wanted to order from him again. But this time the species of leaf insect I went for was Phyllium tobolance. I'm never too sure if I'm actually pronouncing that correctly, but they're basically autumn leaf insects because they come in like red, orange, green, yellow. I was really interested in the different colours they came in, and they haven't hatched. I've been waiting for about 6 months. I've been doing everything as I should. I've been keeping them humid and keeping them at the right temperature. I've spoken to the guy that I bought the eggs from and 2 other separate leaf insect breeders, asking them basically if I'm doing anything wrong, if there's anything I could do differently to help them hatch, and all 3 have basically said that there's nothing I could really do differently to help these eggs hatch. Sometimes they can just take a few more months to hatch, or they just might not hatch at all, so it's still a waiting game. I don't know if they are ever going to hatch. I'm still going to treat them as if they might hatch and keep spraying them and keeping them on a heat source, but I'm not feeling too hopeful that they are actually going to hatch, which is a shame. It's also worth mentioning that I did message the guy that I bought the leaf insect eggs from and asked him if any of his eggs from the same batch had hatched, and this was a few months ago. I probably should message him again, but he said that none of his had hatched either, so it might just be one of those things that either they never hatch or they may take a few more months. I was told it would be about a 3-month wait, but speaking to the other leaf insect breeders I spoke to, sometimes it can take a few more months, so I'm going to keep trying. But for now, I was really sad that I didn't have any leaf insects because I really missed having them around. They're such a cool animal to have. So this is where Beth comes in. I think she messaged me a good few months ago just to show me her leaf insects, and she did say once hers were mature enough, if they did produce eggs, then she would be happy enough to give me some if my eggs hadn't hatched. So I said yes, that would be really nice, and I was still hoping at that point that my eggs would hatch, and obviously they haven't. So Beth got back in touch and said that hers had started laying eggs, and would I like either some eggs or some of the babies that had already hatched. So as I haven't had much luck and as my eggs haven't hatched, I said I would love a few of the nymphs that she has available, so that is what's in this box and that is what she has kindly sent to me. She didn't have to do this, and I'm really grateful that she has, because I've missed having leaf insects in my life and I'm so excited to see them. So these leaf insects she sent me are Phyllium philoppinicum. This is a different type of leaf insect to the eggs I have. This was actually the first type of leaf insect I had back when I got my first leaf insect, but if by some miracle these eggs ever do hatch, I will just buy a second enclosure for them to go in instead. It's no big deal. I can have 2 enclosures side by side with the 2 different types of leaf insects because I am really obsessed with them as an insect, and it's no big deal if they do actually hatch. They can just go in their own separate enclosure too. So I don't want to wait too much longer. I really just want to open the box, so I'm going to go ahead and do that on camera now. So the substrate we're going to be using in the leaf insects enclosure is paper towel, and you do want this to be damp because they do like quite a humid environment, but you don't want it to be too wet, but it is okay to allow it to dry out in between spraying it. But I would say you do need to spray them about every day to every other day just to make sure it does remain humid in their environment. You also want to make sure you are changing this paper towel regularly. I'd recommend about every week just to make sure no mold is growing because that can occur in their enclosure and you really don't want that to happen. So just keep an eye on your substrate, make sure it's not too dry, not too damp, and also not too moldy too. You are also going to want to make sure that the water you're using to dampen your substrate is dechlorinated as well, so that's also something to keep in mind. So the next thing I have to do is provide them with a food source. I use bramble because it is readily available to me. I've had a few people ask me what to do if they don't have bramble readily available, although I think it is in most countries, I'm not too sure, but if you can't find it readily available in the wild, then you will have to go and try and buy one. I recommend trying your local garden centre or something. Those should have like blackberry plants or raspberry plants. Those are considered bramble, so if you have access to a garden centre, try obviously before you get your leaf insects, try and have a look in one of those to see if you can find some sort of alternative that you can purchase instead. So wherever you get your brambles from, you do want to make sure it doesn't have any car fumes on it, so make sure you're not getting it just from the side of the road. I'm lucky enough to have a woods behind my house, which I just went to and picked up some bramble, and you do want to make sure wherever you're getting your bramble from, that you do rinse it off first, just to make sure any harmful chemicals on that bramble is removed and safe for your leaf insects. So all I'm going to do is fill this up with water and then pop the bramble in there for them to eat. Something else to consider when you have nymphs is when giving them the bramble itself, try to trim around the edge of the leaves just to make sure they can actually eat some. Sometimes when they are very small they can have trouble actually penetrating the leaves and eating some, so just by cutting around the edge of the leaf itself does help them out in being able to eat some. Something else that is really important, especially if you have an enclosure larger than this one, I would recommend keeping them in a smaller enclosure just until they do get bigger, but you want to make sure that the bramble doesn't touch the sides of your enclosure, especially if you have a larger one than I do. This is a temporary one, but you don't want your leaf insects wandering off and not being able to readily get back to their food source when they're very, very tiny. So if you have a larger enclosure than this one, just make sure the bramble doesn't touch the sides and they can't stray too far away from their food. So when it comes to handling these guys, you do want to be very, very gentle, and I don't recommend making handling them a regular occurrence, but if you do need to move them from your enclosure to another enclosure, then that is perfectly fine when they are this size. So obviously you don't want to just grab them and pick them up. They are so delicate and their legs can detach really easily from their body, so the best way to handle them is to coax them onto your hand or onto whatever surface you're trying to get them to walk onto. And you can see in one of these clips, I'm kind of poking it on the back. This just gets it to move forward onto the leaf I'm trying to get it to attach to. So don't make any sudden movements when handling them because they can very easily fall off. And also when you're trying to get them to move onto another surface, please make sure all of their legs are not on your hand anymore before you move your hand away, because any sudden movements whilst their legs are still attached can unfortunately make their legs detach from their body. So just be really, really careful, especially when they are this small, and I really don't recommend handling them too much. So these guys have a lot of growing to do. The females of this species can reach up to about 7 to 8 centimetres, but the males are slightly smaller, about 5 to 6 centimetres, so as you can see they are nowhere near that yet. So you may notice that 2 of them look a bit different to the others. That is because they are at different stages in their life cycle. These ones have a darker coloration around the outside, and they would have actually hatched completely black. They would have resembled ants a lot more than they did leaf insects, and gradually they start to turn more green until they molt for the first time. The larger 3 are a few more molts ahead in their life cycle, and they will have 6 molts in their lifetime. The males will only have 5, but as they grow they will continue to molt and obviously increase in size. So I'm not entirely happy with the enclosure I have them in at the moment, and I just thought I would mention that quickly. I have had to make a few modifications to their enclosure, having only had them for a few days at the time of filming this. I do want to make some sort of DIY enclosure instead. I do have some spare mesh I can use to mesh out the sides, because with these leaf insects it is really important to find that fine balance between them having high humidity but also enough ventilation at the same time. So I think I will make them a DIY enclosure until they are big enough to go into their final enclosure, which is specifically made for them and does have great ventilation on both sides. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed seeing my really tiny baby leaf insects. I'm so excited to finally have some in my life, and I hope you guys are excited to see them too. I'm really excited to make videos on them and watch them grow up. Right now, some of them especially are very small, so I'm really excited to see them get bigger, and I hope you guys are too. So my hopes for them is that one of the nymphs turns out to be a male, and I have this self-sustaining colony going where they consistently breed and top up the colony with new leaf insects, because they don't live that long in reality and it can be very quickly over. So hopefully there is a male in the bunch, and this can mean I can get eggs eventually, and hopefully them ones will hatch, but that is a long way in the future. They are still really tiny right now, and I'm just really excited to see them grow. I also just wanted to give a big shout out to Beth. She didn't have to send them to me, and she did this off her own back, so thank you so much for trusting me with them. So right now they are in a temporary enclosure because they're far too small to go into their permanent one, but I will make a video talking about that and showing you guys the enclosure once they are big enough and showing them going in for the first time, so you have that to look forward to in a few months. But for now, if you want to see any more animal content from me, make sure you are subscribed, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye!